What up, Dodgers Nation? D-Mac here. And I hear my guy Borna, of course, representing the Padres. Hog watch himself. Of course, we got a 4-game set. Dodgers-Padres in San Diego. Padres made some moves at the deadline. They weren't sellers. They were buyers. Dodgers fans not happy with what they did at the deadline, but these two teams face off. I still think it's a rivalry. But, Borna, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, D-Mac. It's been a tough season for these San Diego Padres, but they are squaring off against your Dodgers at a pretty good time. They've won 5 out of their last 6 games. They bought softly at the trade deadline. I know me and you have to talk about our respective trade deadline days, but man, 4-game set here in San Diego. Padres 8.5 back in the division, 4 back in the final wildcard spot. Heavy playoff implications.
And if you're a Padres fan, right, you have to be saying to yourself, we got him right, we won him, right? After the year you had last season, you snuck into the playoffs, you just got to get a ticket to the dance, and that's all you need. You slayed the dragon, you beat the 111-win Dodgers team, you had a chance there in the NLCS, you still have so much top-end talent. To me, Borna, that's what stands out for this Padres team. Yes, you've seen some issues on the margins. Yes, from the bullpen standpoint, if it's not Josh Hader, there has been some issues, especially in save opportunities. But you look at the front of that rotation, Blake Snell having a career year, setting himself up for a big payday. Juan Soto, he's been fantastic this season. Manny Machado, he's got closer to career norms. He's an above-average bat. How do you feel just about the overall talent level?
Doug, I mean, one of the biggest things when it comes to expectations, talent, and all that jazz is the Padres have not really met those goals yet. But listen, Manny Machado is starting to get back to who he is. Juan Soto is absolutely cruising now. A name, I don't know if your Dodger fans are locked in on, Ha-Seong Kim is locked in at the plate right now. Ha-Seong Kim is the man, the myth, the legend. 284 batting average, OPS of 830, 840. He's been the most consistent hitter on the Padre team. He leads the San Diego Padres in batting average. So I think the offense is really starting to come around. I think the rotation's been really good all year long. The bullpen was pretty fatigued, but they were able to kind of get it going a little bit. They got Scott Barlow at the deadline, able to add some replenishment to this Padres bullpen. I think it's all there for the taking. It's all there for the taking. The Dodgers, on the other hand, Doug, tell me about your trade deadline. You guys get Lance Lynn. You guys do some stuff. But the Erod, he, Mr. Rejected, back to your Dodgers. What are your thoughts on Erod and everything that happened to your Dodgers at the deadline?
By the way, all I can think of right now is it's ringing in my head, Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim. I can still remember the horrors of hearing that there in Game 4 after he doubled down the line to score a run there off Yancy Almonte. I was pushing in the offseason. I was saying, hey, if Ha-Seong Kim was not a Padre, that's the guy I would go after. So, hey, yes, he's on the other team, but he's a player that I really love watching. So, a little happy for his success. I will say that. But as far as where this Dodger team sits right now is, look, they didn't make the move that everyone was hoping, right? They made a lot of moves to the margins, a lot of upgrades. They did address some issues, and I think those guys have a chance to contribute, but they didn't get that big splash, that big homer. You guys got Juan Soto last year, right? Dodgers got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner in 2021. We didn't see that big move. Now, they did make some moves that I think are going to help this team. Ahmed Rosario, he's already playing well in the last 2 months of the season. He's been one of the introduced him as an outfielder, shortstop. So I think he'll play some outfield eventually. Then Kike Hernandez, he's someone that was, of course, someone that's a fan favorite, had a lot of success as far as his role for the Dodgers. It wasn't working out with him in Boston because Trevor Story, of course, he goes down. He was expected to play shortstop. Kike is much better in the role he served for the Dodgers. A platoon bat against lefties, had a big bases clearing double against a righty. So he's feeling like he's in the right place. He told reporters a few nights ago that he didn't know how much he needed to be back at Dodger Stadium playing in front of this crowd. Then, of course, you got Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn likes to eat innings, right? And that's exactly what this Dodgers team needs because, Borna, this is not your Dodgers of old, okay? We are 26th in Major League Baseball when it comes to innings pitched from our starters. 26th, okay? Lance Lynn, say what you want about the guy. Yes, he gives up dingers. He's already given up 31 home runs on the year, gave up 3 in his first start. You'll live with the solo shots with Lance Lynn, but that's where he can really help, is a guy who can eat innings for this team. You bring back Joe Kelly, who I think has been as nasty as he's ever been. His strikeout rate is up. His velocity's up. He's back in a comfortable environment. He admitted that playing at Dodger Stadium increases that adrenaline level. He bought in and out for the clubbies. I thought that was cool. And then lastly, you got Ryan Yarbrough. Now, Yarbrough is someone who has pitched very well of late since he came back from that facial fracture. He has a sub-3 ERA. And, of course, velocity-wise, one of the lowest velocities in the league, doesn't miss a ton of bats, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but he limits hard contact at an elite level, does not walk hitters, so he can help. But of course, I kind of want to get your thoughts on the Eduardo Rodriguez situation. Apparently, Erod likes family over winning. I don't get that. No, I'm just playing. But still, that's his choice. He got that into his contract. But I'm sure Padres fans were probably happy about the fact that Dodgers don't get Erod. Am I right?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Whenever the Dodgers fail at something, that's when the Padres fans smile. You know how it'd be in these parts. But in all seriousness, I still think Andrew Friedman did well on the fringes for the LA Dodgers, right? They're up in the National League West. They're 61-45. They've been very, very solid at home, a little bit above 500 on the road. Listen, I think we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams this series. We know we bring out the best in one another. I know right now the Dodgers have an 8.5 game lead in the National League West, but usually when we're talking in August, D-Mac, it's at 20 games. This division is not signed, sealed, and done. I mean, pipe dream, but if the Padres were to sweep the Dodgers, it's anyone's division. I mean, 4 back. I mean, so Padres fans are talking about the wild card. Let's talk about the division. Heck, I think the Padres are feeling re-energized. They've won 5 of 6 games. They had 2 big areas they needed to address at the trade line. Number one was getting a designated hitter on both sides. They're able to get G-Man Choi on the left side and Garrett Cooper, who's had a really good year against lefties, on the right side. Additionally, their bullpen has been very good at the top, but they didn't have enough depth, and it's been very fatigued. They get Scott Barlow, who's been one of the better closers in the American League in 21 and 22. They bought low on him while he's having a bad year in 23, and hopefully Ruben Niebla can put that Ruben Niebla magic on him. I think all signs say that this should be a really, really, really good 4-game set. I know for the Padres, you guys are going to see Snell on Saturday. You're going to see Darvish on Friday. We'll see what happens on Sunday and Sunday and Monday. Weird, Doug, right? We have a Monday game too during the day. It's a weird 4-game set, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a weird 4-game set. I was just looking at it because, I mean, it feels like the Dodgers and Padres have played so many 3-game sets in recent vintage, but you get the Monday game. Hey, look, you're talking about a stretch for this Dodgers team, 13 straight games in 13 days. And yeah, I mean, one of the good things about making these trades is you basically get a rest because of it. You're basically giving these guys some additional rest. So yeah, you talk about that rotation with LA. I mean, you're going to be facing some rookies, right? Bobby Miller, who I'm sure you're well aware of at this point, had a lightning start. He was fantastic. Bobby Miller was Miller time in Los Angeles. It was Bobby's world, a .78 ERA through his 4 starts. But then he's had his ups and downs. Yeah. And he's a grinder, man. He's someone that, and it's really been a learning curve for him, but he's definitely taking steps in the right direction. His last start allowed 3 runs in 5 innings. Before that, 3 runs in 6 innings against the Rangers. So it's not like he's going to go out there and pitch 6 or 7 innings of 1 or 2 run ball, but he's going to be solid. You're going to see him flash that top end potential. And then I think you're going to see Ryan Yarbrough in some capacity in one of these games. And I hope it's as a starter, because that ERA as a starter is in the 3 range. As a reliever, it's over 7. So hopefully you get a good spot for him. You won't see Clayton Kershaw. He's still on the IL. He's probably maybe going to be back in the Arizona series. Maybe the Rockies series kind of makes a little more sense as a soft landing. Tonight, they're going Julio Urias, so you won't see Julio Urias. Might see Emmett Sheehan, who I think pretty much you're going to see another turn through this rotation if you're the Dodgers. That kind of makes the most sense. Michael Grove, who has struggled this season, pretty much the worst ERA all time for a Dodger for this many innings pitched. So he's been moved to the bullpen. So yeah, you're not seeing those rock solid starters. It's not like we saw Borner early in the year, because who's gone? Dustin May. He's out for the year. Dustin May, he takes his game to a new level when it's against that San Diego Padres team. We saw his bats versus Manny Machado, some of his field. I always say his stuff moves more than military family. He's not out there, right? He's on the IL. He's on the shelf for until next summer. So that's really the biggest question for me heading into this season. Will the pitching get it done on the road? Because you have to look at this series if you're the Padres and saying, if, like you said, you can win 3 out of 4. If you can sweep this team, you're right back in the division. And right now, if you're the Dodgers, there is no guarantees that if this pitching doesn't step up, that you're going to run away with this division. That's just not on the table. They have to keep winning ball games. And I think if you go for the throat, you send a knockout punch to the Padres this weekend, that will go a big way into winning this division.
No doubt. I mean, the Dodgers have a chance, right, to have a knockout punch here. And the Padres have a chance to claw themselves right back in it. And I think both sides have been very interesting cases. I'm looking at a guy in Mookie Betts. He's having an incredible power surge here, D-Mac. He's on pace to hit 40 jacks. And Freddie Freeman, talk about how good of a signing that's looked so far. I mean, people were questioning signing a 33, 34-year-old first baseman at the time. The dude's hitting 340 this year, and he's probably going to win the National League MVP. So when you have the top of your order in Betts and Freeman, I mean, listen, that's a great start right now. Looking on the Padres side, Juan Soto, we were talking about this in April and May when we were first squaring off about his struggles, and you were saying, listen, you're confident Soto's going to come back to being Juan Soto. Bingo, Doug, he is that guy again, right? Ever since that putrid April, Juan Soto has been one of the best, if not the best hitter in baseball. He's crushing balls to the opposite field. He's risen that batting average all the way up to 280 in OPS, top 6 in baseball. Mookie's actually number 5, so he's quickly chasing his tail. Tatis just hit his 100th career home run. Manny Machado's starting to look like Manny again. So listen, I really do think that we're squared up for a really, really good series. I'm one of those Padres guys who are like, this season was over a week ago, but hey, they've won 5 of 6 games. They just swept the Texas Rangers. They won a series in Coors. All signs will show what happens in this series. Is there a key for your Dodgers in this upcoming Padres-Dodgers series where you're looking at saying, hey, this goes our way, I think I'm going to come out of this 4-game set a happy camper?
I think the number one key has to be how much length can you get from this starting rotation? Can you get 5-6 innings? Because pretty much half of the starts this year, you're not even getting 5 innings. And if you don't get 5 against this Padres lineup on the road, we know they're going to do damage. You're going to tax that bullpen. So that, to me, is the number one question, because if you can get quality starts, you have to feel good about this Dodgers offense. You mentioned Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, the best duo here in L.A. since Shaq and Kobe, right? Talking about the power surge for Mookie. You're talking about the damage he did. I mean, the home run he hit against Hader to extend that game and win in extra innings. You saw the back-to-back home runs they hit in the game at Dodger Stadium. So those are two guys that have done damage of late. They've done damage against the Padres. That's really where it comes down to. But you also need some production from down the order. I think another big key is Will Smith. So Will Smith, we know that he's established himself as one of the best players in the game as far as at his position, as far as a hitter, but he's really struggled in the month of July and early here in August. Had a hit last night, but still the hard contact's down. He's really been beat by fastballs away. That's, I think, we're going to target Will Smith. Fastballs up and away, and even fastballs inside. It looks like his bat speed has slowed down just a little bit. Of course, we have Austin Barnes, who probably couldn't hit 220 in a T-ball league, wearing his Manta mask all season at the plate. Doesn't really help too much to have your backup catcher really not providing very much depth. So he looks a little gassed from that standpoint. So there's definitely that. I think, too, for me, the Padres, one thing about the Padres, man, and I do catch a good amount of Padres games, is they will get up, man. If it's the Dodgers at home, in San Diego at Petco Park, I mean, they're going to get up for that game. I mean, this year the Padres 10-16 against last place teams, right? I mean, 0-10 in extra innings. I mean, it's been a frustrating season, it feels like, but I think the Padres realize what's at stake. You're just following the deadline. I mean, you got in Scott Barlow, man. You got Barlow. He's the one that we wanted. We were in talks with Garrett Cooper a few years ago. I mean, it feels like Andrew Friedman is starting the job for Preller, and Preller just finishing the job with some of these player acquisitions, right? So I do think there is some positive momentum for the Padres. You mentioned their record of late. The Dodgers, though, I still think they expected to get one more piece, and if they don't have a successful series after not getting that piece, you could start to see them looking around like, hey, maybe this team isn't built for the World Series. So I think it's definitely a big series for both teams.
No doubt about it. And I think what the Padres did at the deadline, I was a proponent of the Padres buying and selling, hopefully. You know, I thought they could potentially move a guy in Blake Snell just because of the value, and I think the contract he's going to get is absolutely massive. But you know what? That's not who A.J. Preller is. He bought with, he was appropriate in the way he bought. He wasn't crazy. He didn't lose his mind. I kind of compare it to what Alex Anthopoulos did with the Braves in 2021. They were 2 games under 500 at the trade deadline. What did they do? Let's buy low on guys, and let's hopefully they have high ceilings. An Eddie Rosario, a Jorge Soler, a Jock Peterson, and it worked out for them because they already had enough talent on that team. They just needed to kind of help get them a little bit of a jolt. The pitching was good, and it's very similar out now. I'm not saying the Padres are going to be the 2021 Braves, but that was the similar approach that A.J. Preller had at the deadline. A G-Man Choi, right, Doug? He's a guy who hits a home run in every 12 at-bats, who can provide pop from the left side of the plate against right-handed guys like a Bobby Miller. I'd be stunned if he wasn't DHing tomorrow. And then you take a look at the other side. If you're facing an Urias or another left-handed Dodger, you have a guy in Garrett Cooper who's been crushing left-handed pitching this year. So now the Padres, they had issues with Cruz and Carpenter as their designated hitters. That box has been checked. Cronenworth is starting to heat up. It looks like now with Kim being the cog at the top of the order, everyone moves down. There's now legitimate length and now legitimate depth pieces in this Padres lineup. The pitching has been really good all year long. They hopefully get Michael Wacha back on Monday. If I were to tell you that the Padres, biggest strength would be pitching this year, I would have told you this team was going to win easily 100 games because of their offense. And it's pretty crazy that hasn't been the case because they're 6-18 in one-run games and they're 0-10 in extra inning games. In comparison to last year, Doug, they were winning all the time in extra innings and one-run games. Isn't that crazy? The Padres in extra innings and one-run games are 6-28 and have a shot to be in the postseason. That's been the biggest MO of the team. But that is not a mistake, Doug. 6-28.
But to me, I would look at that number, and that would force me to say, bye. Believe in this team because you're so close to being on the other side of that, right? I mean, at some point, you got to get some positive aggression to the mean there and win some of those games. And you talk about the length. I look at that series last year. Profar getting a big base hit. Myers putting the ball in play on the Trey Turner error. You had some guys other than the big names, the Machados, the Sotos. I mean, those guys, the Tatis is back in. He's wearing the sickest cleats in the game, right? So you have some guys now that I think have the potential to do that in Choi and Cooper. And if you do get that, the pitching has been solid all year. The rotation with Musgrove, with Snell, Darvish always gives this Dodgers teams fits. That's why I'm still concerned about the San Diego Padres. After last season, people ask me, Doug, is there anyone that concerns you? I'm like, everyone. Everyone concerns me, okay? When you lose as a 111-win team to a Padres team that had to make it into the wild card game, everyone concerns me. You mentioned that Braves team in 2021. How about the Nationals in 2019? That is just the reality of Major League Baseball. I know it's terrible. I know it's terrible that a 162-game season can come down to whoever's hot at the end, but that's just the reality. And that's why I always focus on postseason players because, look, this is a man's league, man. This is a veterans league. This is a league where established stars, they get you over the top. I mean, can the Dodgers count some of these young pieces? I think they're going to need contributions absolutely from Bobby Miller. We saw what Walker Buehler was able to do for this team back in 2018 and beyond that. So I'm hoping that he can have, I want to put that kind of pressure on him, say a Walker Buehler type contribution, but he definitely has to step up. And then, yeah, the Dodgers, like Mookie Betts says too, they drive Benzes too, right? They have tons of talent on this team. It really just comes down to the health, too. I mean, I think the number one question in Dodgerland right now, Borna, is one, the health of Clayton Kershaw. Okay, we mentioned Lance Lynn, who's already the top innings guy on this Dodger team, over 129 innings pitched. The top Dodger this year is Kershaw with 95 and a third, and he's missed significant time, pretty much a month already, over a month, due to that shoulder injury, right? And then Julio Urias, who there's a lot of people out there saying, hey, maybe he goes to the Padres. There's been some sneaky Urias to the Padres takes in recent years,
yeah,
right?
I've heard it.
You've heard it. It's possible. I mean, Scott Boras, we know, hey, man, you don't sign with Scott Boras unless you want the top dollar. If you guys lose a lot of pieces, I could see it. But the reality is he hasn't put himself in a position to get that big bag. I mean, we were talking a few weeks ago, maybe he accepts the qualifying offer.
Doug,
maybe
I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question about Julio Urias. I mean, do you really think he still won't get a big bag? I mean, take a look at his last 4 to 5 years of body of work. It's unfortunate he's having this year in a contract year, but come on, he's 26 years of age. No young starter hits free agency at that age. And over the last 3-4 years, Doug, he's been lights out. You really think this year is going to really screw his payday? I still think there's going to be a team that gives him a 6-7 year deal with a lot of money.
I think the thing about Julio, though, is you mentioned his age. That's the number one thing for me. To me, he is the Manny Machado, the Bryce Harper when it comes to pitchers, when you consider that he's 19 years old when he's starting, right? He's hitting free agency extremely early, especially for a starting pitcher. He's not even 27 yet. I still think he can get a 6-7 year bag. I would not be shocked to see him sign a contract north of $200 million. But if he had continued on the success of last year, where he's the ERA leader, who's in the Cy Young mix, if he puts another season like that together where he's further removed from that shoulder injury that he had earlier in his career, I think we're talking, I don't want to say Strasburg numbers or Garrett Cole numbers, but something in between the Rodon and the Cole numbers, right? I mean, where you're talking about someone who could have gotten 250 plus million when you consider the length that he could have signed for. If you're talking a 7, 8, 9 year deal for a starting pitcher, because we haven't seen those 8 or 9 year deals for starters since Garrett Cole, right? Or Strasburg. So I thought he put himself in a position to possibly sign a deal like that. I still think he's going to sign a really nice deal. I would say 6 or 7 years, close to 200 million, but I don't think it's going to be north of 250 million. Also, too, I'll also add this. We know Scott Boras that it's a big presentation, right? He gets his numbers guys together. They tell agents and teams how great his player is. He proves why he's such a great player, right? Well, the difference is that some of the advanced numbers don't love Julio Urias in that he's not the biggest high-velocity strikeout guy that you say, oh, he's going to dominate you in Game 7 of the World Series. But what he does do, he induces soft contact at an elite level, has spin. But how is that going to age, right? So that's, I think, the question for me. But I still think he's going to get a really nice bag. I just don't think it's going to be with the Dodgers because they're going to get Shohei Ohtani. I'm just telling you that's what's going to happen. I still think he's going to do okay.
I was actually talking about this with a couple of Padres fans yesterday. They were like, Borna, if you, let's say Blake Snell wanted 6,170, Urias wanted 6,170, I'm giving that money to Julio Urias any day of the week. He's 4 years younger. He's had more consistent frame of work. You know, some players fold in contract years, others deliver. Maybe it could be as simple as that. I know Blake Snell's the guy who lets his mentality run him a lot. So when he's motivated by something, Blake Snell's honestly, sometimes you can see on the mound when he's struggling, he's almost bored. He's trying to try new pitches out. He's trying to try new things out. When he's incentivized by a big payday, he is locked in. I'm not saying that's everything with him, but that's kind of the player he is. Julio Urias maybe folds with these kind of situations, but oh my goodness, he is so talented. So do you not think he's going to re-sign with the Dodgers if you had to predict it right now?
I mean, in my bones, I think that this organization, they, one, haven't extended or re-signed a lot of their players that they've seen go all throughout their arbitration process. And two, I think that they're fully committed to getting Shohei Ohtani. And I think that has been the angle. I've heard that from sources that they're all on getting Shohei Ohtani, and that's something that they've been working towards for years now. So, yeah, if you're going to give a $500+ million bag to Shohei Ohtani and then turn around and give a $200 million bag to Julio Urias, I mean, we know this organization, they print money and they do very well revenue-wise. But, yeah, I think that Julio Urias loves the Dodgers, but I also think, too, like I said earlier, you don't sign with Scott Boras unless you want to sign the biggest contract you can. And from Scott Boras' standpoint, we know what he wants to do. He wants to be on that bottom scroller, right? He wants to see his name with Julio Urias attached to it. So I will say, though, the Rangers making those moves that they did, bringing in those pitchers. I mean, Montgomery's on an expiring deal. I could see him going to the Rangers as a team. I wouldn't be shocked if he's back with the Dodgers if he struggles for the rest of the year. But I think he's going to get it together, and I think he's going to get closer to the pitch that we've seen in years past and set him up for a pretty nice payday. But, yeah, the Dodgers just don't like giving the years to these pitchers. Like, if he was a little older, you mentioned Blake Snell's age. If he was north of 30 and you can get him for 5 years, maybe 6 years, I think it's more realistic. But when you consider his age, I mean, I think he's in a really great position to sign a very, very long-term deal of north of 8 years. So I think that's what's going to happen. But I just don't. I would give it, if I had to give it a percentage chance, I'd probably give like a 30% chance that he's back with the Dodgers next year.
Wow, so not too high. Anyways, before we wrap it up, I want to get into kind of our series predictions for this series. Again, for the Dodgers, Bobby Miller, Yu Darvish goes tomorrow. I mean, it's a really interesting pitching matchup. I know, as you said, Bobby was Miller time. He was started out hotter than fish grease, and then he's kind of cooled off. Yu Darvish, he kind of started off all over the place, and he's starting to look a little bit more like Yu Darvish. The biggest issue with Yu this year has been his control. Not trusting his fastball enough. Huge game tomorrow. One of these teams obviously needs to win, and I think this is going to set the tone for the rest of the series. And I think tomorrow's game, obviously, this series is important for both teams, but I think the Padres like their chances on Saturday with Snell on the mound against, I forgot who's going for the Dodgers, but not a name I even recognize, Doug. So definitely think tomorrow's a big, crucial game for the Friars and Dodgers. I'm predicting a series split here. I think the Padres get them on Saturday and Sunday. I think the Dodgers get them on Friday and Monday. I love Blake Snell's chance on the mound, and I know Padres fans would take a series split here. They have a lot of head-to-head matchups ahead. They got 7 against the Snakes, 7 against the Giants, 3 against the Brewers, 3 against the Marlins, 3 more against the Phillies. Those are the games the Padres are looking at when they're like, okay, we have our chance to get into the postseason. It starts there, but this is a very important Dodgers series. I got a series split. What about you, D-Mac?
Yeah, I was just about to say series split just because of the way this rotation lines up. You don't have their top dogs going with Kershaw out and Urias pitching tonight. But I'll just say, for the sake of an argument, for the sake of just having a different answer, also the Dodgers take 3 out of 4. Why not? I don't feel great about that prediction, but I also know that the Dodgers have had a ton of success against this Padres team over the years. Since that June series loss back in 2021, Dodgers have gone 6-25 against the Friars this season. So that's a ton of success. I do think you'll see that playoff-like atmosphere that we've seen, that postseason feel to it, especially considering how close we are to the end of the season. But really, I think it's also, too, one thing to mention is, another key to look for is, will JD Martinez be back in the lineup? Because I don't know if you're familiar with this, but JD Martinez has a little bit of a strange injury where they just can't really get to the bottom of it. And that's something that you want to consider too, because he said that nobody knows it but himself. I mean, it's all of a sudden it'll start tightening up. He's been calling it weird. Then a day later, it'll be perfectly fine. Dave Roberts said that it's in his back and then it's manifesting itself in his hamstring. So JD Martinez has been a big reason why this offense has been one of the best in the league. He's been the best DH in the league, not named Shohei Ohtani, or at the very least, one of the select few. So if he's back in the line, that's going to change things. And Will Smith have a big series? So that's really what it comes down to me, because you can't just rely on Mookie and Freddie on the road against a good Padres team. So I think your pitching sets up pretty nicely. And I think that you have all the incentive in the world to win this series. But I'm taking Dodgers 3 out of 4. We got to do some kind of bet. I don't know what that is. Maybe you got like maybe you wearing a Dodgers hat in your Twitter picture or something. I don't know. We'll think of something.
All right, screw it. The Padres are sweeping the Dodgers. They're sweeping them in four.
That's the bold take I'm looking for, Born. That's the bold Born.
4-game sweep. Lock it in. You said no JD. I'm locked in. I didn't know. I mean, JD Martinez is having such a good year for the Dodgers. I mean, talk about a reclamation project. You get him from Boston. His power numbers just die. They come with Andrew Friedman. And you guys have so many power hitters. In all seriousness, Padres fans, Dodgers fans, always fun doing a collab here with Dodgers Nation. D-Mac, always a pleasure, my man.
All right, man. How about maybe if the Dodgers sweep, maybe I have to go down to San Diego and recreate the "That's What's In" with those guys.
I don't even want to see that. I don't even want to see that.
You don't want to see that? Okay, I'm just saying. I'm offering. I'm throwing it out there if you want it. But, yeah, man, it's always great to catch up with you, Borna. Hey, we're out to catch up again because these teams are going to face off. I do feel my heart of hearts after everything is said and done, after the up and down year, the Dodgers with injuries and the Padres, all the expectations, and all of a sudden they're sellers and they're buyers at the very end. I think at the very end of the day, it's going to come down to Padres-Dodgers. I think that's how I feel. I think it's going to come down to the last couple of weeks of the season.
I couldn't agree more. I think the Padres, after all these ups and downs, it's still, as crazy as it sounds, it's all in front of them. And they have a chance to make some noise beginning Friday evening at Petco Park. Dodgers Nation Hog Watch collab for D-Mac. This is Born AK Hog. We're signing out of here, everyone. Peace.